GettingPositiveKarmaNow.com presents Bhagavad Gita for All, lectures by Nalan Karula, recorded in front of a live audience. Chapter 15, The Yoga of the Supreme Person.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Om Jnanam Timirandasya Jnananjana Shlakya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Last time we had completed text 15 of chapter 15. Sarvasya chaham hridi sanivishto mata smriti jnanam apohnam cha vedescha sarve raham eva vedyo vedanta krit vedavit eva chaham. Krishna is situated in everyone's hearts. He says, I am situated in the heart of all souls as the observing and guiding supersoul, Paramatma. And from me arise the soul's remembrance of the self, knowledge, as well as forgetfulness of the both, according to the soul's actions. I am the creator of the Vedas, and I alone am the sweet absolute to be known through the Vedas. As Ved Vyas, I am the compiler and revealer of the conclusion of the Vedas, the Vedanta, and I am the knower of the Vedas, and the deliverer of the results of following Vedic procedures. So, we had discussed this last time in fair amount of detail, and if there are any questions about this still, we can take a few questions and before proceeding on to the 16th text of chapter 15. If anybody has any questions, any doubts, any clarifications required, please indicate. Anyone here? Anyone on the internet community? No? Okay. Fine. So today we have text 16 of chapter 15. Dva vimau purusha loke ksharas chakshara eva cha kshara sarvani bhutani kutastho akshara uchyate. Dva vimau, which can also be stated as imau dvau eva. Dvau means two. Imau eva or imau dvau eva means only these two. So it is clarifying that there are only these two, and what are those? Purusha, Loki, living entities who think they are controllers. So Purush means one who is a controller. So there are only these two types of living entities broadly throughout the Loki, in the material world, in all the 14 planetary zones. The Kshara, the changeable and perishable, the fallible, the ones who are not perfect, and Cha Akshara, the immutable, the infallible, the ones who cannot make mistakes, who are perfect. Eva, certainly, Cha, Kshara, Sarvani Bhutani, Kutastha, Akshara Uchyate. So, there are only two types of living beings that exist in the world, the fallible and the infallible. All the living beings from Lord Brahma down to the lowest entity are perishable, due to having fallen away from their true nature and having come in contact with material nature. Those who are situated in their eternally perfect nature in oneness of eternal association with the Supreme Lord are known as the infallible ones. So here a lot of information has been given that those who are in the material world, there are two types. They are the ones who are fallible, and they are also ones who are infallible. So ultimately, it's the perfectly infallible ones are only in the spiritual world. So they are not existing in the material world. But then how is it that we are having this statement that there are two types of these entities living here in the material world? So this is very interesting. So those who have been captured by Maya and forgetfulness of their eternal nature are considered to be the fallible ones, the kshara, the ones who are changeable, who are perishable, who are temporary. In other words, who are identifying with the body. Now, how do you forget your eternal relationship, and what is actually happening there? It is that when the living entity forgets his constitutional position as an eternal servant of Krishna, that's when the forgetfulness starts. And before that, Krishna has said, from me comes forgetfulness, knowledge, and also knowledge of the self and realization of the self. So those who are in the spiritual world are liberated from matter and are imperishable. And it is to be clarified here that nobody who is in the spiritual world can come down to the material world. It's not a fall down. It is not possible that those who are living in the spiritual will come down to the material world as fallible ones. So this again has a lot of implications. The first is that the souls who are living in the material world, starting from Brahma downward, they were never in the spiritual world to begin with. But they were in contact with Krishna before they were appearing in the material world. But because of exercising their free will, wanting to be enjoyers separately from Krishna and not serve Krishna directly, they got captured by the material energy and descended to this plane. So these are the Shara, changeable or perishable people. At the same time, within this Kshara, changeable living entity, there is a part that is imperishable, that is the soul. So within the living entity, there are these two types. There is the perishable and the imperishable. So that's the first understanding of how the perishable and the imperishable exist within the material world. So the soul is imperishable, but it is identified with the material nature, so it attains a body which is perishable. So you have these two things running together. So that is the first understanding. Now, this is a lot of interesting information hidden in this one shloka. The soul can come down to the material world from the spiritual world if Krishna desires, to help him in his pastimes, like Jay and Vijay, the gatekeepers of Vaikuntha. Krishna wanted to fight. He has the fighting tendency also. Whatever we have, he has in superior quantity and quality. So he had this mood of, wrestling and fighting and so on. So who will oppose him? No material entity captured by the material nature can oppose him. So somebody has to come down from the spiritual level. So that is very special. Lest we think that we are also coming down because Krishna wanted us, that is not a fact, because Krishna does not want anybody to come to the material world. It is our choice only. So in a way, it is our free will, we decide. The day we say that we don't want free will, we surrender to Krishna, that's the day then we are taking our constitutional position. So, what happened to Jay, Vijay and others who come with Krishna? So, if you go to the understanding of this shloka, Kutastha Akshara Uchyate. Who are those who are called Kutastha or spiritually situated in oneness? So they are in oneness in their consciousness and association with Krishna. They do not forget Krishna even for a moment, no matter what external activity they are doing. So this is a very beautiful system or beautiful way that things get revealed through the Bhagavad Gita. There is perfect clarity. There is no contradiction of any kind. So it is very, very clearly explained here and elsewhere. If you look at the Bhagavatam, if you look at the Chaitanya Charitamrita and other such literatures, scriptures, those who are here directly with Krishna, his associates, they are associating directly with him, knowing who he is internally, while externally playing some kind of a part, according to a drama or a theatrical production that he wants to put up for his own enjoyment. And in the process, the others who associate with him also enjoy. So it's a mutual enjoyment in a particular state. Those who revive their spiritual soul consciousness of their position and they act accordingly, they are also then to be considered infallible onto the Akshara part, the ones who do not fall down. Why? Because they are in transition. They have got the right idea, they've got the process, they're working on it. It's a matter of time. So this is how the Bhakti Bhav develops. So what is the fundamental meaning of Bhakti Bhav towards Krishna? Is that we don't want to leave the association of Krishna. That is Bhakti Bhav. Bottom line. That one who does not want to be away from the association of Krishna is in spiritual consciousness with that understanding of who he really is. So if we go back to chapter 8 of Bhagavad Gita, the transcendental yoga of attaining the supreme divine, if you look at text 8.5 to 8.14.15, one, Krishna makes it very clear, how do you come to me even though you're in this position? By remembering me. Always remembering me. So the souls who are in the material world are considered to be eternally bound, nitya baddha. The souls in the spiritual sky are nitya mukta, eternally free, because they are not subject to the conditions of matter. They are not subject to transformations and change. They are not subject to creation and dissolution, because in the spiritual world there is no creation. Creation only happens in the material world. If we say that the spiritual world also was created, then it must have at some point not been there. But all the understanding of the scriptures is the spiritual world always existed. It is always there with Krishna. So there is no question of a comparison of material world with the spiritual in that sense even. There is no creation, there is no change, there is no transformation. There is of the type that you get in the material world, but there are variations that are happening, varieties of things that are happening with the living entities in the spiritual world. So I'll just go back to chapter 8 of the Bhagavad Gita and give you the reference there. If you go to 8:14, Ananya chetas tatam yomams smarati nityasha tasyaham sulabha partha nitya yuktasya yogina. So a person who without deviated mind, with a concentrated focused mind, not deviated, not going here and there, exclusively always satatam, anyone, mam, me, Krishna, smarati, remembers me, or he has me in his mind, and nityasha, regularly. So it's a practice. So you have the two words, smarati, nityasha, remembers me with practice, regularly, constantly, building up to constantly. Tasya aham sulabha, for him I'm very easy to achieve. You can find me very easily. Partha, son of Pritha, my dear cousin. Nitya, regularly, yuktasya yogina, always engaged in devotional service to Krishna. So, if you go back to chapter 8, it will give you the complete foundation for this statement in chapter 15, what Krishna is saying. So, there is no contradiction whatsoever. So, even a nitya badh, a conditioned, eternally conditioned soul can get liberation directly by engaging in direct devotional service. And there is a very beautiful poem by which we sing at Guru. These are the Guru Ashtak poems that are sung in Vaishnav organizations, in Vaishnav schools, in Vaishnav mandirs, in the order of the spiritual following of Vaishnavism, written by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And the 8 Shikshastakam means Guru Astakam means the 8 prayers that are praising the Guru. And the 8th one is Yasya Prasadat Bhagavad Prasado, Yasya Prasadan na Gati Kuto Api, Dayam Stuvam Stasya Yashastri Sandhyam, Vande Guru Sri Charanarvindam, which means that if the spiritual master is satisfied, Krishna is satisfied. So you cannot jump over the spiritual master's head directly and say, I will satisfy him. It is impossible. You have to go through the link. And the link is the spiritual master at your crown chakra, above your crown chakra. And Yasya Prasada na Gati Kutopi. Without that blessing and of the spiritual master, you cannot progress. It is not possible. So Dhyayam Stuvam Stasya Yashastri Sandhyam. So 3 times a day at the 3 Sandhyas, sunrise, noon and twilight, you should offer your obeisances mentally, whatever. Shri Trisandhyam, Vande Guru Sri Charanarvindam. Bow down to the lotus feet of the spiritual master, remembering the spiritual master. So this is the process that you approach a spiritual master, you get the knowledge, you get the guidance, and you have an appropriate behavior with the spiritual master, and of course with other God brothers and God sisters and so on. And you engage under the direction with spiritual devotional service. So it is very easy, since you already have a lot of tools available through the impersonal energy aspect of Krishna, and you have the personal energy aspect of Krishna. So the impersonal is coming through the Brahminical connection of the universal life force energy, and you have the Mahamantra. So these are the magnificent weapons that you have to cut Maya and to liberate yourself. So this is a wonderful, you can say, sequence of what is embedded in these 4 lines. Dvau imau purushau loke, sharas chakshara evacha, shara sarvani bhutani, kuthasto kshara akshara uchyate. So 16th shlok of the 15th chapter on Yoga of the Supreme Person, the Purushottam Yoga. So we will pause here today at this 16th shlok, and I will take some questions now. No questions?
You mentioned Brahma downwards.
Yes.
So that's including Brahma?
Including Brahma. The post of Brahma is offered to a living entity in the material world who has faultlessly lived 100 lives. And if such a living entity is offered this post and he refuses and he wants to go back to the spiritual zone, then Garbhodaksha Vishnu expands himself as Lord Brahma himself. So that happens sometimes. The current Brahma is not that, is not an expansion of Vishnu. The current Brahma is a living entity who has attained this post. And Bhaktivedanta Swami has said numerous occasions that people who end up in Brahmalok can also come down again once their good credit, good karma runs out. So it is still not entirely safe, but it could be. Because at the end of Brahma's lifetime, he merges into the body of Vishnu, and everybody in the Brahmalok goes with him into that place. But that's 100 years of Brahma. Right now, as I said, he's in his mid-50s. So a long, long time to go from Brahmalok to the divine. So you can cut it short by following the process of healing your karma through Reiki, through the KQ force, and moderating your actions accordingly in remembrance of Krishna. Elsewhere, Krishna has said also, you go back to chapter 8, it's a wonderful chapter, that if you see me in every living entity, also you are seeing me. So when you are going through your day, you are seeing that Krishna is inside every soul particle in every body, even an animal. But we cannot treat them as though it is Krishna himself manifest. He is only there as a witness, as an observer, and to give them the guidance as to how to access their results of their karma. So you need to have that understanding that Krishna is there, but this person is not Krishna manifest. But I respect the fact that Krishna is there. But I deal with this person as I have to deal with them, otherwise I will be in trouble. So I cannot be very lax in this. That now, Krishna, you look after me, you're there, hi, how are you? Do everything nice for me. No, that's not how it works. Hanji.
So when a soul comes to the world, it is said that everything is destined. Then how do we explain the free will and what is the extent of free will?
The free will is first that you have chosen to be away from the spiritual world. That's free will. Secondly, when you are coming to the material world, you have number of choices available. So like you are sitting here, you have a choice of sitting here or listening to this lecture online or listening to it later when it's uploaded on the internet. That is your free will.
What is the extent of it?
You have full free will.
Full freedom.
Yes. The question is whether there are many who are not doing it. So they have free will also. They are not doing it because they are not inspired or inclined in that direction. As far as things that are happening to you in your life, that's the second part of your question. You have free will there also. You have choices. So if you substitute the word choices for free will, then that's easier to understand in many contexts. That you have a certain situation in front of you, you have a option of dealing with it in many ways. Which option do you choose? It is your free will. You can always claim, I had no free will, I was forced. Nobody is forced. Eventually. It is where you give up. I can't do this. Okay. You can't do this, so that's a choice. That I'll rather give in to this than do that. But you will find that you will keep making a lot of errors or mistakes because of the Kshara nature, because of the Maya, because of being captured by this illusory energy. But if you persist with the healing process, you will be able to exercise free will to access higher levels of spiritual energy, spiritual access to the divine through your practice. So if you practice doing your healing, if you practice following the 5 principles of Reiki, for example, if you pay attention to those and keep them in your mind while going through your day, you are actually practicing this. And then you are doing these things as a service to the divine. You are engaged in devotional service through the chanting, through the channeling of healing to liberate others from karmic consequences that are binding. In the process, liberating yourself. So as we are working to heal ourselves from negative karma, from even the positive karma which gives us results, because we don't want to be here for the results. So it is neutralizing all kinds of our karma. And we are coming to the akarma platform, which means action that has no binding consequences. So while you act, you are not bound. So those things are happening in the process of your healing. So you combine the Brahminical energy, the universal life force energy, as well as the chanting of the Mahamantra or the divine names of Krishna. These are specially empowered for this age. The divine has countless names, but the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is specially empowered by Krishna himself when he came down in his aspect of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu some 500 years ago. So this is highly recommended. Even Lord Brahma is once instructing Narad Muni that this is the mantra for this age. So Narad Muni is asking Lord Brahma, how is it that, in Kali Yuga, they don't have the intelligence, they don't have the willpower, they don't have the strength of mind or dedication of purpose, how will they manage to liberate themselves? He said, through this mantra, through the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So it is a very, very appropriate medicine. It is all in one for doing everything. And when you are connected to the spiritual energies through the initiation process by a spiritual master, that is what gives you the lift to the spiritual world. If you chant the Mahamantra, it will get you to the point of coming to the spiritual master. So either in this life or the next. Since you're already here, so you're safe. So not an issue.
So what is happening, what is the pattern of life in Brahmlok?
They're all engaged in glorification of the Lord, of Lord Vishnu basically, and Lord Krishna. Because their immediate aspect of Krishna available to them is Garbhodaksha Vishnu. So when the demigods, for instance, they run into problems, Indralok, Lord Indra and others, they head for Lord Brahma. Then Lord Brahma goes into meditation and connects with Vishnu if he has to get guidance, and then he tells them what to do. So their immediate go-to aspect of Lord Krishna is Lord Vishnu.
And Indralok is not in Brahmlok.
No, this is in the lower planetary zones. Indralok is very much in the lower planetary zones. Let's see if I can find that information for you. So there are, starting from the highest is Satyalok or Brahmalok, then comes Tapalok, then Maharlok in descending order, then Dhruvalok, then Swargalok or Indralok, then there are all the Patal planetary systems. So these are all going downwards. So Indralok is not the same, definitely, none of these. Satyalok or Brahmalok is the highest. There the people are knowing who Krishna is, who the divine is, and they're engaged in his service in various forms. These descriptions are given in the Bhagavatam. The 5th canto talks about the construction of the whole universe. So that's where you will find the detailed descriptions. Okay.
Mikesh has a question.
Yes.
Good morning, dear master and friends. When there is no, this was in the beginning,
Okay.
later he says, when there is no physical body, Krishna is in the astral heart of the living entity.
When there is no physical body, you always do have a physical body, even if it's your subtle physical body in terms of mind, intelligence, false ego, and so on. So they're different. As you go up the planetary zones, you get more and more subtle bodies. So when you transit from your existing body, also you have a physical body. But Krishna is always in the center of the heart, of the soul. Yes.
Bhavani has a question. Good morning, sir. Sir, how can I always have my will be in tandem with divine will?
How to have your will in tandem with divine will? By surrendering your will to the divine. So you do according to Krishna's instructions and guidance, and that is coming through the spiritual master. When you are not able to understand, then you need to check with the spiritual master how to do that. So basically you have to dovetail all your activities. Dovetailing means meshing them in a way that it is interlocked very nicely. So how you can do it is by channeling healing and to everything that you do with the consciousness. Not that I'm just channeling healing, but I'm also acting according to the principles of spirituality or spiritual process. So it is a practice.
Midway when you were answering, she said, is healing my activities.
Yeah, healing your activities is one, and then behaving in an appropriate manner. So that is coming as part of your conscious practice. If you are just channeling healing mechanically, but you are not actually following through in your actions, then there is a discrepancy. So that discrepancy has to be sorted out in time. So it's a process. You have to keep trying. You have to keep working at it. Krishna says in this shlok, that you have to, in 8.14, that you have to regularly yuktasya yogina. You have to regularly practice. Engage yourself in devotional service. So your devotional service is doing healing offering everything to Krishna, offering the results to Krishna, with the understanding, all these understandings put together, plus chanting the Mahamantra. So these are your devotional activities. At the very minimum, we can chant Mahamantra if nothing else. So there will be times when you will be in good consciousness, and there will be times when you are not in such good consciousness. It's all right. Whenever you come to realize you're not in that good Krishna consciousness, draw yourself back into it. It's not very complicated at all. Krishna says all you have to do is to remember me, think of me, bow down to me, that's it. You just think of Krishna all the time, or you're engaged with activities with the consciousness that Krishna is very much ever present as the Paramatma. And that consciousness will grow. And as it grows, you will find things will change. The way you approach things will change. The way you do things will change. It is a very easy process. There is no hard practice for it. It is only a question of being conscious, aware. So awareness is very important. In 8:14 he says, for those who always remember me with devotion, I am very easy to obtain, because they are constantly engaged in my devotional service. So remembrance is very ananya cheta satatam ya mam smarati, one who remembers me, thinks of me. So this is the key in Bhagavad Gita 8:14. You have the key here, and you look at the 8th, go back and study the 8th chapter. Between now and next week, I would suggest you study specifically the 8th chapter, starting from 8:4 going onwards, or 8:5. Study the whole chapter. And if you go to 8:16, what 8:16 says, 8:15 is saying that after attaining me, the great souls who are yogis in devotion never come to this temporary world, because they have attained perfection. So the point is that you are attaining perfection in the temporary world and then leaving it. It's not that now you will go somewhere and then be perfect. If you're not perfect here, you're not going there. 8:16 says, from the highest to the lowest, all are places of misery where repeated birth and death take place. So this is pretty much matching up with 15:16, where in 8:16 says, A Brahma Bhuvanat, up to the Brahmalok, from the bottom to the top. That is from Brahmalok downwards. So this is where the reference to Brahmalok is coming from the 8:16. 15:16 has that reference connection to 8:16. That it is from Brahmalok. How do we know? Because it says so here. Okay. So this is how you connect. So go back and study chapter 8. Okay. And this is online also on audio, I think, with lots of question and answers came up with that. So you can listen to those. 2 or 3 audios are there. Go to the Bhagavad Gita page and find it there. Okay. Any other questions? Yes.
When we leave this body, then do we have to go through each of the looks?
No, you don't. No. You don't have to go through each of the looks. That is a troublesome process. The Karamkand section, people want to go to the moon, they want to go to the Brahma Lok, they want to go to Indra Lok. The whole problem is that everybody there wants to be a controller of some kind. There is some controllership idea.
Like we have here.
Yes, like we have here. So that controllership problem is there. So when we are renouncing controllership, in that sense, we don't want to be there. But you can't renounce your duties. That is the other thing. You cannot renounce your obligations. So in your obligatory position, you have to control certain things. You have to give guidance. You have to manage. So these are all controlling things. If you look in the material world of a situation of work, there are managers. So what does a manager do? He controls, he directs. So he's a director. So that director aspect is coming from a very different understanding. That is that, things have to be managed in a particular way. There is a hierarchy of requirement of orderliness. So the same exists in the 14 planetary zones, from Brahma downwards. So Brahma is the head. He has 4 heads. Our current Brahma has 4 heads. There are other Brahmas who have millions of heads. So our Brahma is got 4 heads, and then as the planetary zones descend, you can look upon it as a material body also. There is the head, there is the chest, there is the stomach, there is the legs, and below the legs, these are all the hellish planets. So that all description one can look at in the 5th canto of the universal form in the sense of the 14 planetary systems. So it is interesting, there are 7 major chakras in the upper part of your body and 7 major chakras in the lower part. So they can 14. Yeah. Anyway, that's a little diversion from all this. The main point is not that. The main point is of being engaged in devotional service with Krishna, to Krishna, by these means that have been pointed out. Okay, so we will conclude here today then. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Thank you all for coming. It is very interesting that from the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita classes to now, your chanting of Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudeva has really become very confident and loud.
A lot of people have referred to that. In fact, looking at hearing the audios,
Yeah.
chapter 1, and
Yeah.
You mentioned also.
Yes.
You
The very first audio that we listened to, that I heard recently, the voice that comes
Chanting
after
voice,
the
yeah.
chanting voice comes at, very fearful.
And I must tell you a secret that those are boosted volumes.
Oh,
Those are
still
they are still so low. Okay, good. All the best. See you next week. Bye bye.
You've been listening to Bhagavad Gita for All, a lecture series by Nalan Narula. Chapter 15, The Yoga of the Supreme Person. Explore our website, gettingpositivekarmanow.com, for more on how to change your karma and destiny.